Hi, everyone. This is Priya with RegDesk. It's been a while since we've done our webinar series. We apologize for having such a long gap, but we are ready to start with a series of webinars that we will do. And what we've planned is we've decided we'll do a series on the Middle East region, and then we'll do one for the Latin American countries. So we'll keep you updated. Just look out for our newsletters. You'll get information from that, or just reach out to us. But we'll certainly contact you as we schedule those series. So again, thank you for joining us today. In today's webinar, we wanted to share with you some important updates to medical device regulations in Saudi Arabia. We'll also cover a little bit of the basics of how to do registration in Saudi if time allows for that. Many of these changes might be in effect. Well, Bara will let us know. For those of you who may not be familiar with RegDesk, RegDesk is a holistic RIM solution with built-in regulatory intelligence and AI capability to help RA teams prepare, manage, and publish global technical files. Our platform provides daily updates on regulatory changes. So for those who are looking for that, tools to collaborate with distributors, registration tracking, standards management, and workflows to address change assessments. Our clients are preparing and submitting global applications within days, and their audits have been seamless, among saving a significant amount of time. If you'd like to learn more or have specific questions, or you just like to explore the platform a little bit or try it for free, just let us know. We'd be happy to set something up. With us today, we have my colleague, Bara Nofal, who's based in the Middle East, and Bara is quite abreast of all the regulatory changes, as well as updates to regulatory, the landscape in the Middle East for all the countries. So she's the best person to reach out to in case you have any questions. Before we begin our discussion this morning, I'd like to turn our attention to our attendees. Thank you again for joining us. At the end of this meeting, we will hold a brief Q&A. We encourage your participation, so please refer to the chat button on your screen. In the interest of time, please submit your questions throughout the course of our talk, and we will try to address as many of your questions as possible. If we run out of time, we will just email us your questions and we'll try to address them via email. Bara today, for a change, will be sharing a presentation, a PowerPoint, and she'll refer to some slides. We can, and we will, if you would like, email you the deck as well. We'd love to get your feedback on today's webinar and ideas you may have for future webinar topics. So please do let us know about that as well. Bara, we can get started. Thank you for joining us today and sharing your knowledge of starting with our first series, which is the country is Saudi Arabia. So Bara, we haven't had a webinar in few months, and I know, in fact, that there are a lot of changes happening globally. So in terms of Saudi Arabia, are there any regulatory updates there? And if so, can you highlight what those changes are?
Yeah, sure. In Saudi Arabia, actually, every day there is a new update. And today I will be focusing on the main concept of the updates, about 3 new updates on the registration of the regulatory of the medical devices and in vitro medical devices, and for the classification. As we all know, Saudi Arabia already published a guideline about a new classification guideline for the medical devices and a new requirements. So the first one, we will talk about the new classification, was published during 2019 and currently are effective in Saudi Arabia about the classes. The second one about about the Saudi Arabia has cancelled the way to approve the medical devices registration through the GHTF route, which is the approving the medical devices if it was registered in one of these countries, which is EU, America, United States, Japan, Australia, and Canada. So this route was cancelled during firstly or early 2022, and they request all the manufacturer to submit the high risk medical devices through the MEDMA application and to go through the technical assessment, file assessment. And the last one is about to cancel, or the low risk medical devices is no longer available in Saudi Arabia. So if your agent will try to find a section in the portal of Saudi Arabia to fill the class as a low risk, this selection was deleted from Saudi Arabia, and follow the classification risk, the new one, which is class A, B, and C. And that's what we will talk about it now. So this is the main three changes about the risk classifications and the process of the assessment of the file, which is the technical file, actually.
Thanks, Bara, for the highlight. So let's dive deeper into that. So before we do that, I'm just curious, when just to clarify again, when will these go into effect?
Yeah, actually, all of the mentioned regulations update already now under implementation or affected in Saudi Arabia. The last one was the listing or the low risk medical devices was deleted or come to effect to include the technical file for the low risk on 27 of September 2022. So after this date, Saudi FDA will not accept any low risk or listing medical devices, and all the company need to submit the technical file for the low risk also. And for the classification, during mid of 2022, Saudi FDA approved the classification, the new classification. And for the cancellation of the GHTF route was being effective during early 2022. So I think I answered your question about the effective date.
Yeah, thank you. So can we dive deeper into this? Can you share what's different? You know, what changed from what was it before?
Yeah.
What's really changed, because the regulations have changed. And can you also talk a little bit more about the Lotus that you're talking about and the online platform, just to give clients, our participants, some background into those terms?
Yeah, sure. You are now seeing my screen, right?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Yeah. Okay. I will not talk in each slide because we already answered this question. I will go firstly for the medical devices classification. The new medical devices classification is class A, B, C, and D. The old classification was class 1, 2A, 2B, and 3 and 4. But this was the same as the EU or the GHTF main countries classification. So Saudi Arabia will not accept any classification if it is not about the classification as listed in this table. And as we all knows that the classification is a risk dependent. So as you see in the slide, the class A low, and there is types from class A, but it will still class A because supplied sterile or reusable surgical instrument or incorporating a measuring function, even if it is low to medium risk, but in Saudi FDA we will classify this device as a class A. Then the low to medium is a class B, and medium to high class C, and high risk is the D. And for the in vitro medical devices is also classified as a class A, B, C, and D. Before that, it was all the same, class 1, 2, 3, and so on. And the same as for the in vitro, it is a risk dependent, but the risk level is for low individual effect risk and public health, as you already see. This is what the approved classification or the new classification for the medical devices in Saudi Arabia. The second one about
Sorry, Farah, you're just sharing your title screen. So in case you wanted to share the actual slides that you're referring to, we can't see those.
just a second.
So that's interesting. That seems like a huge update where your GHTF classification system will no longer be valid in Saudi Arabia. So if you are ready to proceed with registrations in Saudi, you have to follow the new classification system.
Yeah, for the GHTF, there is no slide to see what is old and what's news. It's only the Saudi FDA announced that this route is not valid now, and you need to follow up or not to follow up to do the requirements as what is stated in the guideline. I will refer it to the guideline just to see all of you. The valid guideline about the requirements for medical devices is MDS Reg 1 requirements for medical devices marketing authorization. The version number is 6, dated 19th of December 2021. So this is your reference if you need to see all the needed documents to be in details to be submitted in your documents. So I will go through the new. I will not go to each requirements of the medical devices. I will go to the technical file. This is the new update. When I said the low risk or the listing medical devices was cancelled, or all the medical devices is now following the MEDMA application procedure. That means you need to apply the technical file documentation even for the low risk. This is a huge effort on the manufacturer, because in the past the manufacturer wasn't prepared or wasn't done the technical file for the low risk, and this will take an effort from them time. So that you need to keep in mind all the documents I will show to you, that you need to prepare it in order to not losing your file or to receive any rejection. So the technical file will include, firstly, I will set only the highlight of the needing requirements. The first one is you need to provide the device description and specification, including variants and accessories. And second one, information to be provided by the manufacturer. I'm saying only the highlight. If I need to go through in each one, I need, for example, 1 hour on each one point. Hopefully next webinars we can do that, but I will keep saying the highlights of the sentence about the requirements. The third one and the technical file is design and manufacturing information, essential principle of safety and performance. It is a checklist. This is important to be followed in the technical file. If you will go through in the guideline, you will find sections and included more than 20 points about essential principle for medical devices and in vitro. They are stated in details. And the fifth requirements, benefit risk analysis and risk management. This include risk management should include procedure, risk management plan, risk analysis, risk management report, and the product verification and validation. And this is a very important step for Saudi FDA. And not the last one, post-market surveillance plan. You need to do this also. And the last one, the periodic safety update report and post-market surveillance report. For this point, I just have a comment, because when I said the technical file is needed for the both low risk and high and moderate, all the risk classes, and for IVD and medical devices, there is a note for the classes, not the BSUR needed for all the classes. For example, BSUR for the medical devices is required only from class B, C, and D. It's not required for class A, while class A is required to submit the post-market surveillance report. And in the in vitro medical devices, the BSUR is requested from the class C and D, not for class A or B. And class A and B, they just need the post-market surveillance. So I do a simplifying of the update, but if we will need to go through it will take too much time. But I hope I bring to you the main concept of this update.
Thank you. So quite a lot of changes, and I'm seeing similarities, and I'm sure our attendees can attest to this. A lot of similarities to the EU MDR, especially with the PSUR requirements and post-market surveillance there. Now, so then, you mentioned obviously that all products and all categories, that these changes have obviously affect everything from class A through D, and it also impacts IVDs. Now, does Saudi have its own, does it have a separate legislation for IVDs?
No, the guideline I refer to it is applied for both medical devices and in vitro, because the technical file, they separated for the technical file of the IVD in a one section and for the medical devices. And if you will go through it, you will see it is the same, but there's minor differences, but they separated on a one document. So there is nothing, only the guidelines.
Okay. And so in terms of your recommendation to foreign manufacturers, because these have already been, are in effect, so it's not that you have time, what should foreign manufacturers do to prepare for these changes?
Actually, the best one, and there is nothing to advise them other than to start working as soon as possible, because Saudi FDA, if you will submit any missing document, they will reject your file and you will lose your fees. So my advice is to go thoroughly and to be patient and to prepare every document with their needed, because the assessment in Saudi FDA is very high, and you need to give them all the documents. So even if the document you may consider it is not important, or you can submit a justification, you need to submit the document. They will not accept with the justification. And actually for the IVD, for example, they are very strict and they will not accept to extend the timeline. And every manufacturer, they need to submit their document after the September 2022. They will not accept it any justification. So please prepare your document as what listed in the requirement.
And the submission is done through either your authorized representative or your distributor, and it's online. Is that right? Can you just talk about that a little bit? How are submissions made? And how can clients work, foreign manufacturers work with the portal?
Yeah, for the portal, I cannot tell the manufacturer about it, because it is the access is only for the authorized representative in Saudi Arabia, but they need to access a server known at Al-Ghad. So when you access the Al-Ghad server, you will submit the application form and all the documents you need to submit it for the registration, and you will be waiting the response from the authority after you apply the fees to them, because nothing will be happened even if you didn't submit your fees. So once you submit your fees, you can access the Al-Ghad server and submit all the available documents and waiting the authorities to respond.
Now, have authorities extended the timeline for approval, meaning Are the timelines still the same, or are there any changes to the timelines?
No, the timeline for approval or the working days about the application to be approved is the same. 35 days about assessing the documents as what they stated in the guideline. Maybe in a special case, maybe they will need more time about if the company have deficiencies because there is responses will be back and forth between the manufacturer and the authority. But perfect scenario, the timeline for assessing the application is 35 days, and the validity of the license, if you will take the approval from Saudi FDA, it is 3 years for all classes. And the fees also is not changed as the as what they announced during 2016. The fee is not changed, and you can refer to the guideline, or can I speak about the fees if they
Yes,
need?
please. I think that would be valuable.
Yeah, I will share the screen just to say the fees correctly. Just a second. Okay. You can see the fees as a risk, also based on a risk classes. The currency is in Saudi riyal. It's not in dollar. For the class one, class A, sorry, is 1,500 Saudi riyal, and working day is 35. And for B, the fees is increased from each class to the higher class. The B is 19,000 Saudi riyal, and C 21,000 Saudi riyal, and for class D is 23,000 Saudi riyal. And this the fee is not changed because there was confusing about the fees, because at some point the authority, they raised their fees and published this document, but after that they back to this standard fees. So for all classes, IVD or the medical devices, this is the fees need to be submitted to the authority. And as I said, the validity of the classes is 3 years, and the applicant must pay the Saudi FDA fees within 30 days. After that, if you didn't pay the fees within 30 days, you will lose the application for you about submitting the request that you need to submit your medical devices. And even if you submit your fees within 30 days, and you didn't respond to the requirements of the Saudi FDA, they will, after 30 days, they will reject your application and you will lose your fees. And because I see the information in the slide, I need to say it. The renewal, if you register your medical devices and you receive the license, and after 3 years you need to renew the registration certificate, you need to prepare your documents that need to be submitted in the renewal before 90 days of the expiry date. So this is an important information to be followed in Saudi Arabia.
Thank you. That's helpful. So we have a bunch of questions. We'll try to run through as many as we can. We've addressed this, but we'll address it again. The question is, can a manufacturer outside of Saudi Arabia register for the classification portal, or do you need an authorized representative to complete classification?
No, they need an authorized representative, because all the online services with the Saudi FDA, it's only between Saudi FDA and authorized representative. And the authorized representative will talk with the manufacturer, but the manufacturer themselves, they cannot access any server.
Then, the question is the GHTF route still being accepted for renewals? And when are manufacturers expected to start renewals using a full technical file?
For the I cannot say a 100% answer on that, because this something the authority didn't share an announcement on that. But the authority was sharp about the GHTF route. So I think 90% the answer will be they will not accept, and they will need to submit the technical file even if for the renewal. And we can in RegDesk, we can discuss that with the authority, and if the authority can accept, we can share it with you back. But 90% the authority will not accept the GHTF, because they announced the new route or the effective date about the technical file early 2022. So you need to be prepared and submit the technical file even in the renewal.
And Bara, have they mentioned anything about the SFDAs, who I'm referring to? Have they mentioned anything about accepting the PSUR similar to what EU MDR is requiring? Because Health Canada is requiring a PSUR as well, but they will accept the EU PSUR with a cover letter along with the report. So I would imagine SFDA should accept the EU MDR's PSUR, but have they mentioned anything?
And they didn't mention it, but I think they will be flexible in the first years about submitting the technical file, so they will accept the BSUR, valid BSUR from other country as a GHTF.
And there's a question about, is there a checklist of documents to submit to make sure we haven't forgotten any documents? Yes, RegDesk can provide that to you. Just reach out to us separately and we can discuss that further. We also have a template for Saudi FDA preparation. So in case you are looking for that, not just the requirements, but actually building your technical file within it, we have tools for that as well. Somebody said, please provide the portal address for registration purpose. We can add that to our deck that we sent to you. That way, but you will not be able to access the portal because the portal can only be accessible by your local authorized agent. Those agents have to be registered with SFDA. Your distributor has to be registered with the SFDA. Otherwise, there's no way for you to access that portal remotely. Is it correct that any medical device installed in Saudi has to have valid license for 5 years from the date of installation? So the license has to be kept renewed at least for 5 years from the installation. But I would imagine this has changed, right? Because the renewal, you said that the licenses are valid for 3 years now.
Yeah, 3 years, not 4 years.
Or not 5, yeah. So the question is, can you update the current GHTF registrations with just new information, or do you have to file a whole new separate submission?
You need to submit a new file.
Yeah. We keep getting asked, will we share the deck? Yes, we will. So somebody shared some insight. They said the GHTF route is accepted if the CE certificate is valid. One of the companies just received the renewal certificate, so that's good. So it seems like once the CE certificate is no longer valid, then Saudi will not accept the GHTF route, then go through the new route, which is very similar to, sounds like, MDR route. Question, will the authorities accept the GSPR from the EU, those essential requirements? Because it also seemed very similar to EU MDR. Do you have any information on that, Bara?
Actually, no, but the authority, they were clear about the new update. They will not accept any additional route because they canceling the GHTF route. So they will not go with a new route to be accepted or not. They need the manufacturer to follow their requirements, and their purpose about announced the guideline and to be clear as much as they can, just to follow the document listed in the new guideline. And even if any manufacturer needs to ask the authority or authorized representative send a question to the authority, they will ask them to follow the guideline.
So, this just came to my mind. I think for one of the webinars, what we can do is compare the new requirements that even though Saudi is saying we're not going to follow GHTF, but it sounds like they are essentially following MDR to a great extent with GSPRs, with PSURs. So perhaps what we can do is do a gap analysis and see what similarities and differences are between the GSPRs of what Saudi is asking for versus what EU is requiring, as well as PSUR. So if you're interested in something like that, please let us know. I think that sounds like a great idea to me, because right now we're answering things generically, but I think it would be great to dive deeper into the comparison between the two. And we can also gather more information about whether Saudi FDA will accept, the PSURs and all of that. They have not mentioned it yet. They're not explicitly saying that they will. They're trying to, I think, instill the idea that we are independent, no longer HTF. We have our own rules and regulations, follow our rules. But again, there seems to be a lot of leverage of MDR, so we can get that answered for you as well. There, I know. So I know there are a bunch of other questions. Please reach out to us with those questions. We're happy to address those. Thank you again. Thank you, Bara, for providing insights into Saudi, and thank you to all our attendees for joining us today. And we look forward to continuing our webinar series, and we promise to not have this long of a lull and a gap. We will make it up to you. So thank you once again, everyone.
Thank you all.